Not too bad.
You know, gets rid of a bit of dust.
That's cool, isn't it?
I don't know whether I'd go and buy a carton of it.
How many bricks in a standard house?
That wasn't on the list. You're putting it on the spot.
And because there's not too many more people doing it, they're not silly enough to do it. So, but it, it does make the product unique.
Okay, Beers and Banter, episode 6, we believe. Mick Broekman, mate, thanks very much for having us here at Namoi Valley Bricks.
Welcome.
Mate, I suppose we ask everyone the first question is a little bit about where you were brought up and what it was like.
Yeah, so, well, I was actually brought up here.
Yeah, right.
Born and bred Gunnedah, and why I've got such high regards for the town. I think it's a great town and one we should be very proud of. Born up here in the Gunnedah Hospital, went to school here at St Xavier, St Mary's. Went to TAFE here at the local TAFE and done my trade at Preston Colliery.
What did you do? What was your trade?
Fitter and machinist,
Okay.
diesel mechanic, boiler maker, that type of thing.
Help with this industry, mate, no doubt.
Very
with
much
that background.
so. Yeah. You couldn't run a business like this without having some sort of mechanical background.
Yeah.
It's very hands-on. It's a very much a mechanical operation. Today, if you had to employ a fitter, or some sort of engineer or whatever to help you do maintenance, would cost you a mint.
Probably trying to get them too, mate, would be a bit of a battle, no doubt, as well. So,
that's right. Yeah, so so I did live for a period of time in Singleton. In the local paper here recently, it was about the Preston sit-in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you read that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was doing my trade at Preston when that happened, and experienced that. And but as an apprentice, I was locked into a contract with Preston Colliery, and they owned Mount Thorley. So I went to Mount Thorley in Singleton and worked there for a few years before coming back to Vickery when Vickery first opened, which is Whitehaven now.
Yes.
On Red Hill, so that was their first little mine out there. So,
leading into, I suppose, the brickworks, mate. Is it a family bit? What's the background?
So
Can you give us a bit of a history?
History of the business. So, the brickworks has been here since the mid 1880s. Bricks have been made on the site. It was first started to supply the rail line. So the rail line coming from Werris Creek to Gunnedah and Narrabri. Bridges and bits and pieces needed to be built, and they were all built out of brick. So small brickyards were common throughout rural New South Wales to build all these items for the railway line as it extended through the countryside, and
Not many of them are still going, though, I suppose.
No, well, there's only ourselves and Wingham Brickworks are the only two country guard.
And you use coal in here, don't you?
In coal, yeah. They're very, very proud coal user. There's a lot of bad press that we get around the coal and coal usage, but without coal, as a fuel source, a lot of small country towns wouldn't have manufacturing at all.
Yeah.
Our city counterparts, think that there's endless amounts of other fuel, but there isn't.
Well, you wouldn't be able to get the heat, I assume, either.
You can't get the heat, so you can't do it with electricity. You can do it with natural gas if you can have natural gas plumbed to your town. Yeah. But unfortunately, country towns don't have natural gas at every town.
No, that's right.
So I'm a big promoter of the coal as being a fuel source, because without that, we wouldn't have manufacturing in country towns.
Definitely. There's a fair bit of automation here now, mate.
Yeah.
Compared to probably when you first kicked off. Can you tell us how the industry's changed, or has that helped the business, I suppose, become less reliant perhaps in times when it's hard to get staff, the automation side of things?
Yeah, that's right. It's when my dad and his brothers and my grandfather started the business off in '59, or bought the business in '59, everything was done with a wheelbarrow and shovel. Yeah. It wasn't until 69 or 70 we got our first forklift. So
I bet you that was a happy day, mate.
Yes, that's right. So bricks were moved from the presses into the kilns on four-wheel trolleys. Yeah. They were taken out on four-wheel trolleys, stacked out in the yard. Little trucks used to run down brick stacks. They were hand stacked onto the side of low bed trucks, taken to site, then unloaded again by hand. So where today, we hardly ever, we don't want to pick up a brick. It's all done with forklifts and.
I mean, can you give us a bit of a process of the brick making?
So it starts off with we mine shale out on a property just on the other side of Blackjack Road, so about 10 k's out of town, and we do a rip and push type method. So dozer pushes it up, and then we crush it out there to 0 to 50 mil. We try and mine the clay this year for next year's production, and we store it in piles so that we can get water into it. So we're hoping to get our 20 inches of rain. So farmers around the area are always, complaining about rain, so brickmakers do too.
Yeah.
So we try and get it to about 5% moisture content, bring it into the factory, put it through our grinding pans, which take it from that 50 mil size down to 0 to 5 mil.
Right.
It's screened down to 4 mil. The waste product then gets returned back to the crusher and gets crushed back up again. The right size material goes into a mixing tank, gets mixed up, and then goes into the Wallbank brick presses that punch out about 10,000 bricks a day.
And from memory, the way you guys do it here is a bit unique, or was how it was done? Is that correct?
It was very much how it was done pre-1970.
Okay.
And it was the way it was done after hand moulding. So there was originally hand moulding,
right,
and then they went to mechanical presses like we've got. So we made the decision in the 70s and 80s sort of thing that we couldn't go with the way the big fellas were going.
Yep.
It was too expensive. The high mechanisation, that sort of thing, was just a family business could never afford it.
Yeah.
So we maintained the old method of making bricks, but just mechanised it the best we could without changing the characteristic of the brick.
So the big pro in that, I mean, obviously, because your bricks are renowned in Australia, aren't they? Like people source them.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously due to that method, I assume. Or
and because there's not too many more people doing it, they're not silly enough to do it. So, but it it does make the product unique. But probably the biggest item in our manufacturing process that makes it unique is that we're one of the only coal-fired plants around. So from the coal, not only do you get the heat, but you get colour, colour and characteristics. So, so using this style of oven, we've mechanised the actual process of the greenware to the full extent, as far as we can go.
Yeah.
But we've tried not to mechanise the firing process because that keeps us unique and sits us alone in the marketplace. So that gives you that boutique, that standalone product that when it's put against your competition, people can tell it's something different.
Yeah.
And when you're at a low manufacturing rate, even though we're doing about 5 million bricks a year, that's still really small in relation to manufacturing of bricks in our industry. So you start to get a bit of a reputation. People can actually see, they go, oh, that's an M1.
Yeah.
That's an M1, because they know the characteristic of the product.
How many bricks in a standard house?
that wasn't on the list. I'm putting you on the spot.
Our big market is larger commercial, high-rise, schools, renovation work. So the market is still very huge for us. The demand is high. Even with the price rises that are going in at the moment, I thought that the phones would stop, but they're still ticking over. It's
I
still.
suppose the product you guys are producing, it's probably not meant for a cookie cutter off the plant sort of built home, is it?
It is. It can be locally because of the transport cost.
Yeah.
So we can be very competitive locally. So we're very lucky that we get well supported by the local builders, especially in Tamworth, Armidale, Inverell, Dubbo are very strong in the house market as well as the commercial. But once we get into Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Brisbane, the transport costs really put it out of the price range of the general house market. But it's still fine for the larger commercial buildings.
Yeah.
Well, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to achieve this year?
More staff.
Yeah, right. Major.
Which is, I think, a lot of us in business today. The labour market's that competitive. So many opportunities out there for people. The brick industry's hard. it's rewarding and it's honest, but there's plenty of other easier jobs out there. So
You're competing with the mine income too. That's
as
there on
well,
offer.
yeah. So I'm pro mining and all those sort of things, but it does affect us a huge way in relation to recruiting staff. So. So if I had a magic wand, I'd like to solve everyone's staffing problems in small business. A bit more free time would be great too if I had a magic wand. And
Well, that might help if you had more staff.
it might too. But life's pretty good, you know. So I don't wish for too much. I enjoy life pretty well, and I'm easily pleased if I can get a lounge chair and a couple of beers and a pizza once a week, sort of thing. I'm more than happy.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page. Actually.
Yeah, probably a Terry's pizza
Yeah.
too, just to promote Terry.
Local business.
Simple
Local
creatures we are. A young 20-year-old Michael, if you could go back in time and give him some advice, what would it be?
Yeah, and it's probably, I've had this question asked a few times, and I really don't know. I've made lots and lots of mistakes. I always say that I've got the most expensive business degree you could ever have, because I've made every single mistake that anyone could ever think to make. But I've learnt from all those mistakes, and life learning is such a valuable learning tool. And luckily, the mistakes weren't, that costly that sent us broke. But I've learnt from all those mistakes. So.
Can't change that, really, would you?
No.
You probably wouldn't want to change it either.
But they're lessons.
Lots of lessons. The thing that I've probably wished I did a bit more is that the guys from school, we had a very close knit group of guys that I went to school with. Then we grew up as teenagers in town. We played football and hung around together till about our 20s, sort of thing, early 20s, and then we all went off in different directions. And just recently, we've all got together using technology, WhatsApp and all that sort of thing, and started to have these conversations online, and then starting to get together and having a few beers and having weekends away and that sort of thing. And it's been a great pleasure to get back and get to see what those guys have done, but just interacting again. And it's like some of the guys I haven't seen for 20 or 30 years, and it's just like nothing's changed. So.
It's funny you mentioned, like a lot of people who are doing these interviews with, they all say, like it's a balance. And I think it was Jacinta Mannion said there's no, or it might have been Penny Crawford actually, said there's no, like there's always something's got to give, especially when you're in your own business, you're trying to get ahead. Sometimes that is family or friends. That can,
that's right.
Yeah.
So, we all say that we need to spend more time with our family. It would have been great to have those sort of things. But you can't, like you say, you can't have both. But I just probably wished I did take a little bit more time every year to stay in contact with people that mean a lot to me over the years.
Yeah. So I suppose following on from that question and the one previously was we talked about what you do in your downtime. Now we've established a Friday evening couch pizza, a couple of beers. Do you get away on holidays or sports or hobbies, etc. that you?
Try and get away for a couple of weeks a year to Yamba. Love the beach. Love my cows. I try and grow a few cows out on the place where we get the clay from, and I really enjoy that part of the agricultural business. But there's something rewarding about growing livestock, where you go through the season where they calve and you watch all that process happen, and then taking those calves up to a point where you can send them to market.
What are your thoughts on the foot and mouth issue that's pressing at the moment?
A real worry.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine if it happened to me, it'd be devastating. If I had to go and dig a hole and shoot all my cows and push them all in a hole, which is potentially what could happen, it would break my heart. So, and I've got 30 cows. It's nothing, but just imagine if it's your livelihood.
Well, that's the other thing, obviously, just as you say, just the emotional toll, but more so what damn things are worth at the moment as well.
That's right. But lots of farmers are, they're in it for the farming and the money and all that sort of thing, but they are really in it because they really love what they do. And when you take that away, They talk about the mental health of people and that sort of thing. We haven't seen anything, unless if this sort of thing happens, we haven't seen anything in the agriculture industry around mental health until that sort of thing happens. And I love me a bit of chook sort of thing, but I couldn't eat it 5, 6, 7 days
a week.
Sort of thing, and you couldn't have any bacon on your pizza. That'd be
Yeah,
devastating.
it wouldn't work. So, lastly, we always just ask people, it doesn't have to be business related by any stretch, but we always just say, if you've got a question for us, just to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, before we do that, I forgot at the start to thank our major sponsor, the Railway Hotel, who's shouted us a nice six-pack of young Henrys today.
And it's not too bad, actually.
It's good, mate, yeah.
The first mouthful was a bit...
Yeah, you get used to it.
But now it's sort of going down pretty good.
There's another one over there for you.
Yeah, we will have that,
Sorry, back to that. If you've got a question for us, mate, finish things up.
Don't know anyone who wants to buy Brickworks, do you?
You've sold it. So long hours. It's 1100 degrees,
And you're all dirty. You're
that's
black all the
right.
time.
Yeah.
I did see you throw that on you before.
Yeah, that's right. I rolled
So,
that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's it. We can edit that.
Yeah. Right,
Right, we'll wrap it up there.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
kindly.
mate. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Cheers.